Hey guys, in this video, I will be talking about which virus is the strongest from Resident Evil, the franchise, the whole franchise. Now you have, I believe there's three main ones: T virus, G virus, and Uroboros. Now the reason why I'm not going to be putting Resident Evil 7 virus into this is because it's not really, I wouldn't consider it like a virus. I would consider it more like a, I don't know, kind of like a biohazard kind of thing. Like the title, it's not really a virus. You have to be killed and then consumed by it, and then it does whatever it does on you. Or, you know what, I could just put it in, but it's not gonna... The reason why I don't want to put it in, really, is just... It's not gonna make too good of a fight versus the others. Some of my friends might actually disagree with me, but... I will tell you right now, Jack has no chance versus a Tyrant, G or Uroboros. Maybe a lower form, but... Past that, no way. So let's look at the T virus. The T virus is your regular zombie apocalypse virus with certain mutations that could happen. And like to plants, animals, insects even. It could happen to them. And once that does happen, you have tarantulas. You literally have plants going to try to kill you. You even have lickers. You have all sorts of mutations, like crimson heads. That, like, mutations for a much harder of a, unit to kill. But that's not it. They also have their own type of unit that they can produce, called the Tyrant. There are about 7 or so Tyrants, and Nemesis is one of them. If you've ever played the game or seen the movie, you know what the Tyrant, or Nemesis. Nemesis is pretty bulky. He's like about 7 foot, 7'5", maybe a little bit more. He's got he can wield a rocket launcher and a minigun in both hands. Separately. I just want to point that out, separately. And there is one that goes invisible and comes up behind you or sneaks up on you. There's some others that grow tentacles and try to attack you that way. There are some other, what was it? There's also, give me a second, guys. So, Nemesis is a tyrant, and he's one of the weaker ones. But in the games, he can, like, he pushed a bus, like, 40 feet, and it, like, was really fast. Like, more than 15 miles per hour. Maybe even more, maybe 20. And it flipped over when it hit, like, the side of a building. Which is actually very impressive. A bus tends to usually be around, I want to say, maybe somewhere around more than 10 tons. And let me tell you, it takes a lot of muscle to do that. I think that is Nemesis's most like the strongest he has ever been pushed. Besides the time he actually consumed a dead tyrant. Oh yeah, you have tyrants and you have super tyrants as well. Super tyrants are exactly what they sound like. They're just more powerful titans. Oh, titans. Tyrants. But these tyrants are more durable and more, how can I say this, deadly. More durable and deadly. Now the most powerful titan, God, stop saying titan, dang it. Tyrant is the 103 tyrant. Or, no, that's the second strongest, I'm sorry. 103R is the strongest. He has two hands with extended claws. His heart is exposed out of his chest. Same goes with the 103 tyrant, but he only has one where the 103 tyrant has 3 to 2 hearts exposed at a time. And let me tell you, there's a good reason why he's exposed, because his skin is like concrete. It's really, really hard to get through, especially with bullets. Now, if you've played Resident Evil 2, you know that the tyrant, Mr. X is a tyrant. And he's the one with the trench coat. And he's actually very scary, because you don't know that he's a tyrant at first. You think he's like some sort of mini boss or something. But at the end, he's a tyrant. It's because of his trench coat that actually holds back his mutation for him becoming a super tyrant. And he's just basically a tyrant that's not fully formed yet. And I think the super tyrants are the only ones I'm going to put into this. I'm not going to put in the invisible one or the one that can grow tentacles, because that's just unfair. And not going to do that much. And these will die within like a couple of shots from a grenade launcher or a rocket launcher. So they're kind of like army tanks and army vehicles and armed vehicles and armed choppers and all those others. Another thing. Okay, never mind. Screw the tyrants. Screw T. Now let's get to G. The G virus, there's only a couple of mentions of it. Well, there's a bunch of mentions, but there's only a few examples that I can go off of with the G virus. Now, the G virus has some very interesting. It basically goes off of the host and accelerates what the host already has. A guy that weighs 100 or so pounds can get to like 1,000 pounds. Like, basically everything is muscle, and then he will start turning in like really accelerating in muscle. And that was a fail. Now, another thing is going to be the G virus. The G virus, as long as the whatever the guy does not take damage, he will not transform. But if he takes too much damage, he will turn into something more powerful. Now, this isn't exactly... Well, this is bad. But this isn't necessarily like the worst thing. Especially like a couple of times he transforms. But if he transforms too much, he can become a, like a subway going through everywhere and just killing a lot of people. Just imagine you're on the subway gets there, you see like everything, like the windows, the doors are all red, and then you see just tentacles like crawling out of it, breaking metal, breaking and bending metal in order to get at you. And only a couple of people will survive, because even though the G virus at that point would be grounded, like it could be, it can definitely, it's very, like, it has a lot of range. It can make the tentacles even longer. Like, bullets really won't do too much to it. Destroying a single area will not do much to the G virus. But if you have the entire G virus destroyed, then you will kill it. And that's basically it. The mutations are, it gets worse and worse every time. That's expected from Resident Evil. But it does not necessarily need to happen. For example, the host can die before they inject themselves with the G virus, saving you a lot of time and bullets. Now, the what was it? The U virus. Hold on, give me 1 second, guys. The Uroboroses-virus, the U virus, can also have a bunch of different transformations. Like in Resident Evil 6, there is a character named Jack who actually fights an Uroboros. A different type of it, like type 2 instead of type 1. Type 1 would be the tentacles. Type 2 would be a subject that can actually control itself and use the Uroboros virus to its advantage. Now, the hardest thing for the Uroboros virus to do is to find a host that's strong enough to bond with. Now, this bonding is very, it can go either way for the subject's bond. If the subject is not strong enough, the Uroboros will consume the subject. But if the subject is strong enough, he gets a lot of powers that he becomes very strong, and he becomes extremely dangerous to anyone. Because an Uroboros is, the Kraken from what is it? The Kraken from Pirates of the Caribbean. Just imagine that every time you fight an Uroboros. That's basically what it is. Now, the Type 2 Uroboros is the one that's extremely durable and is going to be very difficult to kill. But that certain boss, that specific boss, did not or was not able to regenerate for some reason. Either he lost his genetics to regenerate, or he was genetically modified not to be able to regenerate. And that's how he lost his arm, and I do not consider fighting him because he is actually stronger than a tyrant. I don't know about G virus, but a tyrant, yes. Now, since I've given you 3 of the viruses, I want you to go down into the description, or not the description, the comments, lol, and debate it. I want to hear some of your suggestions of what I just said. And yes, I have done, 2 days of research. And, there's some, you can even do it yourselves if you want. If you don't believe me on some of this, it is basically, godlike status. So, it's not too difficult to not believe, so. That's my say-so. That's my, decision for a debate. I think, personally, the G virus and the Uroboroses virus are definitely the stronger ones. But if I had to pick the strongest, right, the potential one would be the Uroboros, since it can spread. I mean, you throw that thing in the ocean, it eats like 2 fish, it grows bigger. It eats 12 fish, bigger. It eats, it consumes something even bigger. It becomes even bigger. It's kind of like that. Like, imagine, it consumes every fish in the ocean. It grows even bigger than that. That would be like another planet. And that would be very difficult to stop. But the thing is, the Uroboros virus has a weakness. Fire. Well, yeah. Fire. The G virus does not necessarily have one. If it takes too much damage, then it will not be able to regenerate. But that's the only flaw in that. The T virus, there's a certain limit to everything that the T virus makes. For example, tyrants, they have a limit of their own, not like the G virus. I like the G virus the most, but the Uroboros virus is potentially the strongest. I mean, again, the ocean. And it's over, boys. But that is my opinion. Oh yeah. The what's it called? Molded versus the G virus. Basically, it's Jack versus William Birkin. That would not be a fair fight. The Uroboros Uroboros, the G virus, William only needs to like grab his head and squish it, and Jack is gonna be laughing his head off. But really can't do too much versus it. The G virus itself, like to a weaker person, weaker than average, grows to be, I don't know, like 8 feet. And these things are freaking huge. Potentially they are beyond some other people's control. The only way you can control the Uroboros virus is if you have the cure, and basically if you domesticate it. It actually can be domesticated, despite what many people will think. Now the G virus, it cannot be domesticated, but if you have a relationship with that person that you are about to murder, you could resist the temptation to kill that person or to go up to them and squish their head off. But that's only a maybe. So that's me, and that's my opinion. I think the G virus will technically be the strongest. However, the most like virus-like one would definitely be the Uroboros, with no doubt, because the G virus does not spread like that. G virus actually does spread, but it spreads in a different manner. It spreads by putting a parasite into your body, and that parasite will eat your insides out. There's definitely no pain in there. And I'm not joking whenever I say the Uroboros virus. Oh god. The Uroboros virus is like a legit virus. The G virus is more like you have to inject it, or you have to somehow get it into your body, like a parasite. But that's just me. Which one do you think would be better? I'm gonna show you guys some pictures of the virus, a couple of them at least, and I'm basically gonna show you why I think they're gonna win against each other, but that's just my opinion. Give me 1 second. This is the molded, or the virus that is within the Resident Evil 7, and the reason why I would not put this versus them is not because of the... It looks delicate, honestly. It looks like you can just like blast an arm off and it's basically done for it. I do know these things are quite hard to kill and they are quite, dangerous to humans, but to the G virus or maybe even the T virus, maybe not really. Maybe if this guy got in and his physics were put in, maybe, but yet again, that is going to be even more difficult to prove. This is what the G virus ended up looking like in the end. It didn't look exactly pretty. It had legs and other arms that it was basically not using. It can make tentacles. There's a rib cage. There's a beautiful mouth right there that obviously has not been brushed in quite a while. He needs to take care of that, actually. That's disgusting. Everything else looks pretty good. Yeah, that's the final version of the G virus when it took too much damage at its quote-unquote final form. And this is the T virus. Now this is a very interesting virus because after that trench coat or lab suit was taking off, he would grow the tentacles that he has in his body. You see these little worm things in his skin? Yeah, that's basically what he would grow out of his arms to attack players with. It wasn't pretty, I'll tell you that much. Yeah, I'm gonna end it off here, guys. That was the viruses and some pictures of the competition. I know I didn't show the Uroboros, but this video is already getting a little long. A little bit longer than what I really would like. So, I'm just gonna end it off here, and I hope you enjoyed. This isn't Resident Evil, guys. Mind breaking. Alright, later.